In this video, I try and freeze a paintball in flight using speedlights.
AdoramaTV presents Take and Make Great Photography with Gavin Hoey.
Hello, I'm Gavin Hoey and you're watching AdoramaTV, brought to you by Adorama, the camera store that has everything for us photographers. And today I've come down to Driverwood Paintball Park to answer a question, which is, can you freeze a paintball in midair with flash? Now in the last video, we froze water with flash in a studio. But can you do that outside with something that's moving much faster? Well, there's only one way to find out. Let's give it a go. So the setup is this. We've got Luke inside of this lovely wooden cabin and he's going to fire out across and hopefully I'll capture the ball in midair. That's kind of the idea and I'm crossing my fingers. Now I'm going to use flash because we know from the previous video that flash lasts for a very short period of time and it can freeze movement. But let's try without flash first of all. Let's give this a go. You never know your luck. Okay, Luke, are you ready? Yep. So what I'd like you to do is just fire across there, obviously without hitting me or any of the camera equipment would be much appreciated. And I'm going to count you down to 3 and then we'll fire. Ready? 1, 2, 3. Okay, and once more if you'd be so kind. Ready? 1, 2, 3. Okay, well, incredibly, and by chance, we actually caught one. But it's not frozen. It's a long streak because it's traveled so far during the exposure. And although I actually quite like that, it's not quite what we're after for this shot. It doesn't answer the question. So the question was, can flash freeze a paintball? Let's turn on some flash and find out. So what I've got is 2 flash guns to cover this. I've got one inside of the hut with a nice little softbox just to soften the light down and illuminate Luke. And then I've got one outside to freeze the paintball in flight. That's the idea. But with multiple lights, the best thing to do is to set them up one at a time. So at the moment, just the inside lights on. And I'm going to set my camera up here. So I'm going to be shooting in manual mode. I'll shoot at the same exposure as we had on the previous video, 200th of a second shutter speed. Remember, it's not the shutter speed that freezes the action, it's the flash. But I'm going to drop my ISO down to 400. Well, let's just take a shot without flash and see what ambient light we record at f4. So what we get is a pretty dark picture, but I can see some detail there. So there's something in the background. Now I need my flash to illuminate Luke at f4. So I've got my flash meter. I'm just going to pop it underneath Luke's chin there. And I'm getting f5.6, so that's a little bit on the bright side. I just need to drop the flash down just a little bit. And I've got it down to f4. So the flash matches my camera settings. And if I take a test picture, here we go. You can see that gives a very dramatic look. That really looks moody and that's kind of the look I want on Luke. Now let's add in the second light and that's going to illuminate the ball, hopefully. So for the second light, I've got it set to 1/16 of its full power. So that should give us enough light to illuminate what's going on, but enough speed to freeze the ball. Remember from the previous video, the lower you set your flash, the shorter the flash duration, the more freezing and stopping power it has. Okay, so there's really only one way to do this, and that's to take some pictures. I think the chances of nailing this on the first shot are very slim, but you never know. And Luke, are you ready? Yeah. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to count you down to 3, and then you're going to fire, again, making sure you don't hit me or any of the equipment. Ready? 1, 2, 3. Okay, so the flash is working fine, but I'm not capturing the ball. And I don't think I can put that down to the flash. I have to be honest, I think that's down to my timing. So what we're going to do is we'll try this a few times and we'll see what we get. Okay, are you ready? On 3, ready? 1, 2, 3. Now, part of the problem is the amount of time I've given myself. So the distance from the end of Luke's gun to the end of my frame is quite small. So that means getting the timing absolutely perfect is critical. Not easy, but it's possible. You might want to find something like a trigger trap or an IO shutter to sound trigger this. I don't have those, so what I'm going to do is back up a little bit and give myself a bit more room and hopefully nail that ball. Okay, here we go. Okay, are you ready? On 3, ready, 1, 2, 3. Ready, 1, 2, 3. Okay, ready, 1, 2, 3. And we got one. Brilliant. Yes, fantastic. Well, there we go. It did work. We did actually manage to freeze a ball in flight using little speedlights. So the answer to the question, can you freeze a paintball outdoors with speedlights, is yes, you can. Eventually, it does work. What we're going to do now is to get my favourite picture into Photoshop, and we'll do a bit of post-processing on it, and we'll do that right now. So if you're wondering just how many pictures did I actually take until I nailed the final image, I'm not going to tell you. It was quite a few, let's just put it that way. However, the end result was well worth it. Have a look. So here's the final shot. Here's the paintball frozen in mid-air. But when I go closer, I can see, yes, it's frozen, but there's also a little bit of motion blur because, of course, I'm still recording some ambient light so I can see some detail in the woods behind. And that's just giving that little tiny bit of motion blur. I could clone it out, but yeah, I'm just not overly happy with that. However, this shot, which was taken with the ambient light, I like this movement of the ball. I really like that. It adds some action and speed to the image. But I don't like the noise from the high ISO that I had to shoot at. So let's have a look at this one. This was my very first test picture, and this was the closest shot I had to Luke, and this one for me really works well. So the plan is this. I'm going to create my own streak kind of paintball effect onto that test shot. And fortunately, Photoshop can make that really simple. So the first thing I need to do is to come and add a brand new empty layer. That's the one that we're going to add the paintball on. And then I'm going to make my own paintball. So I'm just going to get a paintbrush. I've got orange as my foreground color. I've got a lovely soft brush, but it needs to be about the same size as the barrel, so about there. And I'm just going to drag a nice straight line by holding Shift and clicking and drawing. So there's my paintball. And it's doing that motion thing, but it's not really blurry and it's the wrong angle. So let's do the blurry bit first. Let's go to Filter, down to Blur and Motion Blur. And with Motion Blur, I'm going to put loads of Motion Blur on this. Let's really make it quite blurry, like that. Now, Motion Blur works fine, but it really makes both ends blurry, and it's sort of sharper in the middle. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to get the erase tool and we'll just erase this back because I'd like it to appear to be sharper or more obvious at one end and then blurring out at the other end. Okay, so that's going to come up here, but obviously the angle isn't quite right because it has to match the barrel of the gun. So I'm going to use a bit of free transform. Let's go to Edit, Free Transform, and we'll just give this a bit of a rotate around and we'll just I'm just going to try and line it up with the gun barrel, something like that. I might even stretch it out a little bit further. There we go. And it's going to go about there. That looks better. And we'll click on the tick. So now we have that nice streak going through, but it's a little bit obvious. So I'll take the opacity down just to blend it into its surroundings like that. Now I could stop there, but I'm going to do one more thing. And if you remember from one of my previous videos when we were out in the woods shooting a Red Riding Hood themed shoot, I added a ray of light with some ray of light brushes. Now I'm going to use them again. We'll put a link down in the description below if you want to download them and try them for yourself. But what I'm going to do is make a brand new layer, and I'm going to get a paintbrush. I'll make sure my brush color is white. That's really important. And I'm going to add in a little puff of smoke at the end of the barrel using the ray of light brush. So let's get that one there and we'll make it really small, something like that. There we go. And we'll just click on the end there and you can see that's going to add in a little puff, but of course it has to be in the right direction. So let's go a bit closer and then I'll use Free Transform again. Let's go to Edit and then down to Free Transform, and I can rotate this around. Pop it about there, and if I go for perspective on my distort by right click inside, and we can just add in a little kind of puff like that. There we go, that looks good. just drop the opacity down just so it really blends in. It just wants to be a hint of something coming out the end of the barrel, and that works really well. So there you go. There's my final paintball picture completed. Now, if you've enjoyed this video and you want to see more videos from myself and the other amazing presenters here on Adorama TV, you know what you've got to do. You've got to be clicking on the subscribe button. I'm Gavin Hoey. Thanks for watching.
Do you want great looking prints at low cost? Be sure to visit our easy to use online printing service. Adorama Pix has professionals who treat your images with the utmost care that you can count on. For a quick turnaround on photos, cards, or albums, use AdoramaPix.com.